Hi, my name's Alyssa Goss. I am an actress, and I deal with anxiety, depression, yeah, all that.
Okay, so when was the first time you can remember dealing with your mental battles?
Okay. Um, okay. I would say when I, high school, high school, for sure high school, for sure high school. Like 16, 17, I thought I was going to end up running track at Princeton. It all kind of went down the drains. I got shin splints really bad. I started smoking a lot of weed. Um, Ended up pretty depressed, and like even when I go back and read like my journals, I was so sad. Like I would come up with different ways, like writing out different ways of how maybe potentially I could kill myself. And when you're that age, you don't really like, you don't see the light.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, journaling, was that a way for you to kind of like cope and get through it, or is it just something you just did?
During that time frame, I think the things that really helped for me were I was still pretty active. I was playing basketball still. My friends, music. Things were pretty simple back then. You know what I mean? When you're a kid, simple things can take you out of that depression, I feel like. Yes, like there could be an argument happening between your parents at the house, etc. You know what I mean? And for that day, it seems so big in your life and it's so monumental, but maybe a couple days after you don't even remember it.
Right.
You know what I mean? The trauma doesn't, it can kind of slide off of you easier when you're younger, and you can kind of push it to the back of your head and not deal with it. And then you get older and you're like, oh shit, like
Right.
there's some things there that have been stacked on top of one another.
And so, that was when you were like in high school and stuff
Yeah.
like that, do you still
Yes.
deal with depression and other mental battles now as an adult? And
Yes.
do you think it's like worse, or is it getting better?
Okay.
For lack of better words, if it can get better.
Yeah. I think I think it does, like 100% it does get better because you start to recognize what that thing is and what you can do to just feel better. I can talk about, okay, I'll go through after high school, I went to college, and then I ended up withdrawing from Spelman. Okay?
I went to Spelman.
All right. So I went to Spelman, and I'm from Ann Arbor, Michigan. So in Ann Arbor, everything's very mixed. Everything's very open. Maybe some people would say even a little too free. And then going to Spelman, where it was very like black,
Right.
Yeah, fuck white people. And I was like, well, shit, I am half white. You know what I mean? I was kind of stuck in this place of how do I fit in? And I think during that period, I was just really good at putting on a mask and not staying real with myself as to what I wanted, which created a sense of sadness within me because deep down I knew I wasn't really where I wanted to be.
Right.
I wasn't really doing things that excited me. And I started to look at those things, you know? Okay, so moving forward, after I withdrew, I moved to Germany. And that was when I was like 19. And in Germany, you can drink. You know what I mean? You can drink at that age. You can get, like, obliterated. And so that was really kind of my first real experience drinking, feeling grown, not having my family around me. and feeling a sense of loneliness, a huge sense of loneliness. Like, I thought that if I had moved to Germany and I was in a different culture, experiencing new things, which I was, and it did make me really happy at first, but once it was gone, it just felt, everything went back to feeling mundane. And that's kind of what I've always dealt with, is getting these things that I really want and then realizing that that's not even the thing that I want, you know?
Right.
Or getting to these places and then realizing the truth about these things, and it just saddens my soul. So I was there and I was nannying, and I started to notice I was gaining weight. I was like feeling like such a mom. Like, I felt like my whole day revolved around these kids. And I was like, yeah, this shit is hard. Like, being a mom is, I think probably, I'll sound so out of pocket if I sound depressing. If I say depressing, I think it's probably rewarding, but it takes so much out of you. You're literally, you're putting so much energy into another vessel that you're used to putting into yourself. Holy crap. So I felt like I started to create this complex in my mind where I was like, I'm so fat. And so after cooking food for the family, and then I would bathe the kids, put them to bed. By then it would be like 9 p.m. and I'd be like, okay, what can I do for myself? Well, tomorrow I have to wake up at 5 a.m. so I really can't do too much. And so I would like kind of overeat a little bit, and then I would go to walk to this park and throw up. And I would cry. And I would write in this book how fat I was. Like, I still have the journal, and I look back at it and I'm like, I feel sadness for her, but I'm also happy about her. Like, that I experienced that, you know? Yeah. Anyways, I started to feel like, I was like, what do I want? I was like, I just want to model. Like, I just want to do this. Like, this is what I want. And I would have like these conversations with myself in the bathroom, you know, like with someone like interviewing me, you know, like, oh, Alyssa, oh, you've done all these amazing things. How do you feel? I'm like, shit, I feel fucking on top of the world. You know what I mean? And that would be kind of an escapism for me as well. Like, during that period, it was like creating a fantasy within my head that eventually manifested. Right. So that's also important, is also how I view mental conditions, because I view them as a form of genius. And I believe that they are people that deal with anything. I think that they see and feel more and than your average person wants to be aware of, and that they are genius. And that this physical plane is sad for them. They can feel how lost everyone is. Like, yeah. Okay, so I started to have these dreams that my dad didn't die when I was in Germany, but that he was like super sick, and they started to scare the crap out of me, right? So I remember I called my dad. I tried to Skype with him, because during that time there was no, like, you know, international calling wasn't a thing. It was like you had to Skype and then like try to talk your dad through how to see you via Skype, right? So I called him. I said, Daddy, I keep having this dream that you didn't die, but something bad happened to you. He said, baby girl, I haven't been feeling well lately. I haven't been feeling good. I'm like, okay, well, if you don't, like, please, like, take yourself. So anyways, I end up moving home. Not moving home yet. I fly home. While I was there, my dad was on his way to a meeting. It was like Christmas time. Let's say, around that time. And he was driving himself to a meeting. He had an aortic aneurysm. So an aortic aneurysm You know, how you hear about brain aneurysms. People, they think that they're just having a headache, or they think that they're just getting a back pain when it has to do with your heart. So they go to sleep, they rest, and then they die in their sleep, 70% of people. The other 20% of people make it to the hospital way too late and shit. My dad, he remembered what I said. He drove himself to the hospital. So he felt something was off in his body, and he's also genius. He gets to the hospital, he's on the x-ray table, his heart had ruptured.
Oh my God.
They took him at the University of Michigan, they took him, they put him in surgery, I get the call, they're like preparing my brother and I for him to pass away. You know what I mean? So he comes out of it. And I'm like, I have to take care of him. So I officially moved back home to take care of him. During that time, I went back to school and I started studying sociology and psychology. And I was like, yeah, I made the right decision beforehand. I don't like this school thing. It feels way too oppressing and too oppressive. That shit, right? Yeah. So I'm there, but I'm just so unhappy. I start dating this girl, and this white girl. And we started, like, she introduced me to drugs, you know what I mean? Like Molly, ecstasy, that type of thing. And little did I know, I was actually highly allergic. I'm highly allergic to prescription drugs, like Vicodin and all that. So one weekend I had done, and I don't do drugs anymore, let's put that, you know what I mean? But I was young and dumb during this period. 19. Right. Okay, so doing Molly and doing ecstasy one weekend, and a lot of it. And I went to a J. Cole concert. And low-key, I met J. Cole. I was like, come back to this party. And I sent him to the wrong address. He went to this frat, whatever. Anyways. Okay. So that Sunday, I remember it was like Easter or something. Like, it was some busy-ass day. And during that time, I was working at this restaurant as a host. And the chef there, he saw I was like under the weather. He gave me a Vicodin. And then I smoked a little weed. And little did I know, I was extremely dehydrated. So I ended up going in to the bathroom at this restaurant. I locked myself in there and I passed out on the toilet seat. Just like shit on myself, etc., whatever. Before this had happened, I texted my girlfriend at the time, this crazy fucking white girl, said, yo, I don't feel good, I'm here, boom, 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 boom. She's the one who came, broke down the door, got me to the hospital. I woke up in the hospital. They said okay, the time I remember waking up, I wasn't laughing, right? But they said that I had woken up a couple of times just laughing at everybody in the room. Anyways, when I woke up, the doctor was like, hey, like, you should have been out of here. Like, thank God for her. Like, basically it was like, hey, are you good? Right. And so that was the first time that I really had to check in with myself, and it scared my family so much, and I saw how much it scared them, and I saw how affected they were just by, like, careless actions and just being young and dumb. And my mom was like, you need to see someone. And I was like, absolutely not. I'm not going to see anyone. Like, this was just stupid. You know what I mean? But I felt like at the same time, everybody was kind of ganging up on me and that they were seeing something in me that I wasn't seeing, kind of like a blinder that was up for me, but everyone else was aware of. So I start seeing someone, and it was amazing. I had to see them, like, the doctor said that I had to see them like twice a week. So I was seeing this doctor twice a week because to them it looked like I'd try to take my own life. For me, I'm like, guys, like, yeah, I'm satisfied, like, but shit, like, yeah, like, cause, you know what I mean? So, I started seeing this doctor, and the first time I was there, we didn't even really get through anything. I was just crying. I was just sitting there crying, you know, like, I felt like I could be vulnerable with her and like open up, and that it was a third party where it was like safe. It felt like a very safe place, and it was new, and it felt very uncomfortable at first. Don't get me wrong, but I think anything that's good for you sometimes feels uncomfortable at first. And she helped me get to a place where it was like, okay, what are the things in your life that, you know, you need to look at? So it was like, okay, drinking for me had to be cut out. Obviously drugs. And then it was just more like finding a way to communicate. Because I think the biggest thing for me, even today, is finding a way to communicate with people if I'm feeling something so that it doesn't build up. Right. But also, then you realize, okay, whoa, also there was like a lot of trauma that I feel like we experience, you know, as kids that we don't know how to deal with it. So we almost compartmentalize it and put it in a place that's just, where it got.
It just is there.
Yeah.
In the back of your head until it comes back up.
Yeah. Yeah. And then just wrapping it up, once I moved to California, which was almost 7 years ago, that was kind of the beginning of me figuring out that the only way to get through all of the pain is to like really go through it and just feel it. So now for me, when I have these moments of like sadness, pain, etc., I feel that shit. I feel it. I will cry in my car. I will cry in my bed. Sometimes I can't get, like, it's not even a matter of, I can get out of my bed maybe to go work out. But then I go back to my bed and I realize that it's a time in my life that obviously I need rest. Something in me is trying to heal. And so now I'm just happy about it. Because I feel like on the other side of it, there's just amazing growth and like blossoming when you really sit in that pain instead of acting like it's not there, where I feel like that's what we do. That's what we are taught to do from such a young age as, you know, Black people. It's like being resilient towards something. And even for me, I still have I don't see a psychiatrist. I don't. And it's because I'm like, this is within me, you know? And I'm not saying that's for everyone, but for me specifically, I feel like identifying the things that hurt us most and the most self-sabotaging things we do to ourselves is the first thing to heal and feel better and like be able to wake up and smile. And it's like led me to capoeira, which is like Brazilian martial arts. Oh, wow. And yeah, and that gives me the ability to play in life and to not feel like I have to be perfect. And it's also active and it works a different part of your brain. I like plant, you know, I garden, I play chess, I like play music, even if I'm not good at it at all. I sing, you know what I mean? I just try to do things for myself every single day that where I feel happy. Like feeling happy to me is important, but really feeling the pain is equally important. Yeah.
That's so true. And so why do you think subject in the Black community? Like, why don't we ever talk about it? Why do we feel like it makes you weak, or just something that we need to hide?
Yeah. I think if we think back on everything that our people have gone through, my Aunt Josephine, my grandfather took my Aunt Josephine up to a segregated school, and this was back in the day. My Aunt Josephine's in her late 70s now. And she was one of the first Black kids that desegregated a school in Knoxville, Tennessee. That's crazy. But because he had his own barbershop, and because so many Black people would go to him in the community, he felt like he could take the repercussion for whatever it would be to take. So I think that when I hear stories like that, real things, real trauma, that Black, like real fucking shit that we went through back in the day, everything, all the mistreatment, even that happens today, it's still happening. Everything is still happening. It hasn't gone anywhere. That we feel like our mental conditions take the back seat to all of that. So I think because we have so much to just get past in general, that what happens in our mental is the last thing that we're thinking about. We're like, well, we have to get this, and this has been happening. Right. So we can't be over here looking weak. That's how people already think, you know what I mean? So there's a certain type of resilience. But then, outside of that, I think that it's changing. I think that people are more aware of, you hear like people say, oh, there's not yoga in the Black community. Like Black people don't know about yoga. Like yoga was a part of our ancestors. Like you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's kind of, maybe even if the resources were in where they could go and talk to someone that they felt like they could relate to, a third party, a counselor. If these were things that were available in the same way, that would be great. But also we have to look at the fact that, white people, they deal with a lot less trauma than we do. So they are able to accommodate their feelings in a different way. There's a different level of privilege there. And, shit, sometimes I'm like, fuck, I'm happy that, okay, let me just say this, mental institutions, all of that, how people were mistreated, how, and it was very much so in white culture. I know this because I look at the white side of my family and I saw it. If something was wrong, if there was something wrong with their child that they didn't understand, that was so taboo. They sent them to mental facilities. My mom, she was sent to one. And it's almost as if that was something undesirable that they were seeing within their children. Within the Black community, we deal with our children in a different way. Right. We deal with them. So in a way, because we are raised differently, we have things that are planted in us that are so deeply rooted and strong, where just going to a third party is a little bit more difficult, because not always a third party isn't always going to understand what we're talking about. Right. You want to go to the best, you know what I mean? Yeah. Not every third party you go to is going to understand what
is going to relate to you.
Yeah. And you're not going to feel safe really talking to them. Like, how do you understand what I'm even saying? And then maybe even the suggestions are just like, that's not how it goes. Right. So, yeah.
If you could tell your 5-year-old self something, just looking back at your life and everything you've been through, if you can go back and speak to your 5-year-old self about your life's journey, what you're about to go through, just anything, what would you tell?
Yep, 100% first thing that comes to my mind is believe in everything that you know. And actually, I went back, and my brother and I, maybe a few months ago, we went back and we were looking at these home videos. And when I was 6 years old, on my birthday, I whispered, I always used to carry this video camera around, and I whispered in the camera, psh, psh, psh. I was like, psh, 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 remember, believe in yourself. Like, I was so so for me, it would just be believe in what you know. Believe. Just believe in yourself. Just believe. Figure out what belief really is, and then just attack that. And also, I mean, 100%. Yeah. You're gonna be so good. Everything's gonna be fine. Like, just go through it and just trust that you're on the right path, and just believe in yourself. That's really it.
What is your mental perspective?
I think my perspective on mental health is that it's 100% genius, period. I think I have a cousin that's schizophrenic, genius. He's absolutely genius. Can remember things, know facts. I mean, is he a history book? Right. You know? So I look at it as light. I look at it as love, and I look at it as something, in Asian cultures, it's actually something that's very much so looked at as like, if you're bipolar, if you're schizophrenic, you're looked at as genius. And I don't know one artist or one genius person that hasn't dealt with some type of mental problem. What artist bit off someone's ear? No, but there's a painter. He actually, not Basquiat, but Leonardo da Vinci, whoever painted with black, just like sunsets. I want to say Da Vinci, but I don't want to say he bit off someone's ear and he didn't bite off someone's ear, but I know an artist, genius artist, but he had such a complex about being alone and being lonely and people leaving him and feeling used up. He bit someone's ear so that he would stay. Wow. And his ear came, no, he cut off his own ear. He cut off his own ear. He didn't bite off someone else's ear. Scratch that. He cut off his own ear because he was tired of hearing someone's bullshit. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. But he cut off his own ear. And I mean, find the genius where you want, but I think that's could be looked at as crazy, but I think that there's also something profoundly deep there that, I don't know. Okay, that sounds a little nuts. Whatever.
No, it's
do you know what I mean? I just think that some of the most amazing and profound people I know deal with something, and that they are so genius and so empathetic and so angelic and human. And they aren't putting a facade on. I think that they are so aware of what they feel and what they go through, that it makes them genius, because most people are so rat trap. Let me do this. Let me put on this face. Let me act happy. Let me do this. Let me do that. Let me act. Yo, gets tiring after a while, even when you're doing it with yourself at home by yourself. So, yeah.